Exposed. How a poison CEO's life-changing encounter with a pregnant girl revealed a hidden love. Jack Miller lay in a sterile hospital bed, his life hanging precariously in the balance, all due to a mysterious poisoning he couldn't quite fathom. Once a celebrated CEO, his world revolved around power and wealth, yet here he was stripped to the bone, feeling emotions he'd buried long ago. Weakness washed over him like a cold wave. The fluorescent lights flickering above felt like judgment, reminding him of everything he had sacrificed. Wealth had become his prison, and he was utterly alone. His mind wandered back to his sister, Alice, and the family ties he'd severed on his climb to success. He shut his eyes, as painful memories washed over him, the laughter at Thanksgiving dinners replaced with hollow silence. Was this how success tasted? Bitter. Amidst his swirling thoughts, a soft voice broke through. "You okay, mister?" It was Grace, a young woman in her 20s, waiting at the same hospital for her elderly neighbor. The kindness in her eyes pierced the thick fog of despair that lingered in Jack's heart. She was pregnant, her gentle hand resting protectively on her belly as she spoke. As days passed within those sterile walls, Grace returned, intertwining their lives with brief and bright conversations. She spoke of her struggles as a single mother-to-be, the small joys she found in the simplest of things, neighbors helping one another, laughter echoing down the block, a welcomed meal from friends. Jack listened, captivated by her unwavering optimism. It drew out the flicker of hope within him that he thought had long burned out. "Why do you care so much about your community?" he asked one day intrigued. "Because we're all we've got," she replied, smile beaming. "And it takes a village to raise a child." For the first time in forever, Jack felt something stir within him, a longing that felt alien but comforting. As he shared occasional laughs with Grace, Jack found himself reevaluating his life choices, questioning the cold ambition that once drove him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jack began to recover, he made a decision. He would reach out to Alice. Years had gone by since they last spoke, and the cold space between them gnawed at him. Could they mend what was broken? His heart raced with fear and hope alike. How could he face her after years of silence? But life threw him a curveball. A family crisis threatened to pull him back into chaos. Caught between the shadows of his past and the glimmer of a new direction fueled by Grace's influence, he found himself at a crossroads. Was he ready to let go of the life he once lived for one that embraced community and love? Just as he contemplated his moral choices, he planned a community event, a chance to connect with those he had overlooked. As he looked out at the sea of familiar faces, he felt the weight of his past tighten around his chest. Would he find redemption? Or would he remain eternally shackled to past mistakes? The question lingered heavily in the air, anticipation crackling like electricity, waiting for an answer. Jack stood at the podium, feeling the heat of dozens of eyes fixed intently on him. The gymnasium was decorated simply, with streamers hanging from the ceiling and a makeshift banner proclaiming Community Day. It smelled of fresh popcorn and cotton candy, a sharp contrast to the sterile scents of the hospital. He surveyed the crowd, a mix of familiar faces from his past, and new ones that belonged to a world he had been neglecting. The faces were eager, hopeful. This wasn't the audience he was used to addressing in boardrooms or conferences. They weren't there for his wealth or status. They were there for a connection, for community, for unity. "Thank you all for coming," Jack's voice trembled as he began. "I have been thinking a lot about how distant I've become from this community, from the people who matter." The words felt foreign on his tongue but liberating at the same time. He saw Grace in the back, her presence grounding him. As he spoke, he drew strength from the realization that he wasn't just talking to them, but inviting them into his journey, a journey of rediscovery. The weight in his chest began to lift as he shared his resolve to reconnect with his sister and make amends for all the missed opportunities layered in the years of silence. But as the applause echoed, his heart fluttered with doubt. What if Alice didn't want to hear from him? What if she turned away, like so many others had done? The thought barreled through his mind until he saw the soft smile on Grace's face. She gave him a slight nod, an encouraging gesture that reminded him he was not alone. Maybe he could grieve his past while chasing hope for a better future. Suddenly, a ruckus broke out at the edge of the gym. A group of unruly teens burst in through the doors, laughing and joking, completely oblivious to the gathering's purpose. Jack's stomach dropped. In an instant, the momentous atmosphere shifted to one of discomfort and concern. What might have been a heartwarming celebration turned chaotic in a heartbeat. Grace looked worried and Jack felt a rush of protectiveness. He took a step forward, raising his voice above the laughter. "Hey, can we just take a moment here?" But instead of getting through to them, they shrugged him off. Words were exchanged, laughter erupted, and others in the crowd shifted uneasily. An unsettling tension began to weave through the air. Jack realized there were people who thought they could just disrupt what he was trying to build. "Enough!" Jack shouted, surprising both the teens and himself with his own intensity. "This isn't just a party. This is about our community, our strength. Show some respect." Silence fell, the laughter echoing away into mandatory stillness. For the first time, Jack felt a surge of authority and intentionality flood through him. Felt good. Strong. One of the teens stepped forward, lips curling into an uncharacteristic frown. "Who do you think you are?" he challenged, arms crossed defiantly. In that instant, Jack's heart raced. He could easily slip back into the sharp, corporate persona he once inhabited. But that wasn't who he was anymore. "I'm someone who knows what it's like to be lost. And I'm trying to make things right. I want all of you to help me. We can make this community something to be proud of." Jack's voice softened as he continued. "I'm hoping you can all be part of it. Not just today but moving forward. We need each other." He could feel the pulse of the room shift, an unspoken connection starting to take root. The young man's defiance faded slightly, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Around the room, people began to nod in agreement, and Jack sensed the tension ebb away. What would follow was uncertain. A healing process wouldn't be smooth, and not everyone would be willing to join him. But as he looked towards Grace, now smiling knowingly, he realized this was only the beginning. With the energy of the crowd shifting, Jack took another deep breath, ready to challenge the narratives of his past and embrace the relationships that could shape his future. Just as hope ignited in him, someone shouted from the back, "You're just a washed-up CEO. What do you know?" Jack's heart sank, but he stood firm. How could he change their minds? Would they ever believe he was sincere? As the murmur of the crowd surged, Jack's resolve strengthened. Maybe today would not be about redemption but the first step towards it. Would they see what he was striving for? He knew then the journey was just beginning. Jack's mind raced as the harsh words sliced through the air. He felt exposed, vulnerable. All these eyes watching him, waiting for him to falter. But in that moment the doubt began to fade. Instead, he remembered his intention to reconnect with these people, to show them that he was more than just a title or a past filled with mistakes. With a steadiness he hadn't known he was capable of, Jack spoke again. "You're right. I'm just a guy who has made a lot of mistakes. But standing here today, I'm trying to show you that I want to do better. I want to listen to you, understand you. I need your help to do that. Together, maybe we can make something happen." The young man who had shouted stepped slightly closer, uncertainty creeping into his expression. Others murmured amongst themselves, a quiet ripple flowing through the crowd. Jack locked eyes with a few familiar faces, searching for agreement or recognition of the struggle he laid before them. Grace shifted beside him, her eyes wide with encouragement, and for just a moment, he drew strength from that. "Everyone here has a story," Jack continued, his voice growing stronger. "Past, a dream, even connections. Some of you might think it's too late for you or that it doesn't matter. But it does. Every one of you matters. Just look around." He gestured to the room, full of neighbors, families, and friends. "You're not alone. How many of you have felt lost just like me?" Jack watched as heads nodded. He felt fervor pulsing in the air, threading through the crowd's collective heart. With each moment he could see barriers beginning to dissolve. There's no one-size-fits-all plan to make things right, he continued, taking a step down from the podium. The space felt smaller and more intimate this way. But what if we shared our stories? What if we could find out how we can support each other? A hand raised from the back of the gym, shaky and tentative. What if they don't care? A voice piped up, filled with skepticism. Jack's heart sank, but he pressed on. Of course someone care, but what matters is that we do. Changing hearts takes time. It means being willing to step outside our comfort zone and face each other. He caught a glimpse of the young man who had called him out. The teen listened with growing interest. Jack took a breath, realizing that this wasn't just about him or his past. This was about weaving a future together. Let us start right now, Jack suggested, reaching deeper into that newfound strength. I'd love to meet each of you afterwards. Let us share where we're at and where we want to go. We can even do it over that popcorn. He smiled, hoping to lighten the mood. The crowd began to murmur again, this time with curiosity. Voices rose and Jack realized he could sense a shift. People were leaning in, connecting with the idea. Jack caught Grace's eye, and she gave him a bright smile. Slowly, it seemed, even those unruly teens began to soften. A few of them exchanging glances filled with tentative hope. He felt a shift in the heaviness that had weighed down his heart. Maybe he could make a difference, could reignite passion in this community. But just then, the door swung open again, and in walked Alice, his sister, shock painted across her face. The room fell silent, eyes darting between them. What would she say? What would happen now that she was here? Jack's heart quickened. In that instant he realized today would be more than about taking a step towards the community, but also one toward his own family. Would he have the courage to face her, to take that leap? The air was electric with tension. His journey was spiraling into something much more profound than he had ever intended. Jack's breath hitched in his throat as he locked eyes with Alice. It was different than the crowd's gaze. This was personal. The tension in the room slowly morphed into a palpable electricity. Hearts beat louder, whispers faded to a hush. His stomach churned as he felt exposed. Yet something in that moment shifted again. He took a step forward. Alice. He began, but the sound of her name felt foreign. He hadn't called her that in years, not since everything had gone wrong. I didn't know you'd be here. Her voice wavered, half surprise and half accusation. Jack could see her emotions flickering like candlelight in a breeze. Sadness, anger, hurt. Neither did I, he replied softly. The crowd around them felt small, as if everyone had faded into the background. I'm trying to make things right, Alice. Right? She echoed, disbelief threading through her words. After everything? He could see memories flashing behind her eyes, painful ones. Moments that had driven a wedge between them. But Jack didn't want to go backwards, not now. It may not be enough, but I'm here, I want to change, he said, his voice gaining strength. Jack examined her face for any flicker of understanding, but all he saw was a fortress. It was like looking at the remnants of a cherished building long abandoned. All the joy drained away. Grace stood back, allowing the siblings to have their moment, but he could feel her support, her belief in him. In a desperate attempt to bridge the gap, he added, I'm trying to reconnect with not just the community, but with you too. You're my sister and I miss you. A small tremor in his voice surprised him. Could he truly mean those words? Alice, however, folded her arms, her expression unreadable. It felt like a wall, a barrier he didn't have the keys to. You have no idea how hard it's been without you, Jack, she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of lost years. I know I was wrong, he replied, stepping towards her, his heart racing. I messed up. But maybe he paused, searching for the right words. Maybe today can be the start of something new. For both of us. Alice sighed, and Jack could read the conflict on her face. That reluctance to believe in any vision of hope. Around them, the crowd watched intently, as if they were witnesses to a pivotal moment. He felt their breaths, their hopes resting on him. Do you really think they'll listen? She asked, her tone softening even if just slightly. That you can change all those things you did? Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. I think they want to believe. Just like you do. We can't keep hiding from our pasts. He nodded toward the gathering. Everyone here has scars, Alice. But if we open up, if we share, maybe we can heal. For the first time he saw a crack in her armor. You're asking a lot, she said, but there was a hint of something else in her voice, a spark of vulnerability. And I'm willing to face it all, Jack insisted. With you I'd face anything. The silence stretched, the weight of it palpable. Could he convince her? Could he convince himself? Just then, a teenage girl from the crowd chimed in just like he said. We all have scars. Her voice held a blend of uncertainty and determination, echoing Jack's earlier sentiments. Others nodded in agreement, murmurs rising from different corners of the room. Their support wrapped around him a safety net he desperately needed. Jack turned back to Alice, heart pounding. What do you say? Will you try? Before she could answer, the flicker of the overhead lights went out momentarily, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps and murmurs filled the air, confusion breaking the fragile moment. Jack's heart raced. He turned back toward the stage just as the lights flickered back on. The crowd's attention had shifted suddenly, creating a slipstream of chaos. Let us not lose the moment, someone shouted. The chance for real connections and healing hung in the air. Yet Jack felt the universe shifting around him. What lay ahead would require far more courage than he had yet summoned. How could he seize this moment and carry them all forward? Would Alice come along? Or would this flicker of hope fade into the dark? The lights flickered back on, illuminating the expectant faces of the crowd. Jack felt an uneasy ripple of energy washing over him. The moment had been suspended in uncertainty, and he was desperate to reclaim it. Alice, please. His voice barely rose above the murmurs, which seemed to swirl like a storm in the room. He took a deep breath, desperate to anchor his thoughts. I need you. We need each other. Look around, this isn't just about us anymore. Alice cast a skeptical glance across the room. She was searching for hope, a beacon of light in the tangled web of their messy history. Jack swelled with emotion, wanting desperately to be that beacon for her. He stepped closer, heart pounding like a drum. Vulnerability spilled out in the air between them. Remember how we used to be? We were unstoppable together, Alice. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if battling with her own memories. Jack could see it, the laughter, the shared dreams, the way their lives intertwined before it all fell apart. He yearned to remind her of those times, hoping she would let him back in. But when her eyes opened, the fortress was back, stronger than ever. Wanting doesn't change reality, Jack, she said, fists clenched at her sides. You walked away and I had to figure everything out alone. I know, he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. I was selfish. I'm sorry. I should have been there for you. Around them, echoes of the past whispered among the crowd, their shared pain amplifying Jack's sense of urgency. Voices rose in the crowd, a growing chorus of agreement and support. Yes, right. We all need to come together. One voice rang out, a reminder that solidarity was possible. Jack held his breath, waiting for Alice's reaction. He hoped to see a flicker of understanding, a glimmer of trust. But all he saw was uncertainty clouding her gaze. How can I trust you again? It's hard, Jack. So much has changed. Her words felt like ice water splashing against his resolve. Jack took another step forward, closing the distance between them. I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I'm willing to fight for it. I'll prove it to you every day. Just give me a chance. Fighting isn't the same as believing. She shook her head, emotion battling against the walls she reinforced. Could he truly break through that wall? He wanted to scream that love was worth the risk, that healing was always possible. Jack leaned in even closer, desperation fueling his words. Then let us believe together. Let us take a step forward, however small. The crowd had quieted, absorbing the intense exchange. Eyes shifted from Jack to Alice, seeking a resolution, a sign of hope. Then, just as Jack felt the tension peak, another voice rang out from the back, a familiar face he hadn't expected to see. Stop hiding, Alice. The voice called, filled with raw emotion. It's time to let go of the past. You've suffered long enough. Jack's heart sank. Who was bold enough to put Alice on the spot like that? He turned to see a young man standing in the shadows, vulnerability and strength exuding in equal measure. Alice's brow furrowed, confusion washing over her face. Ethan? She breathed, surprised. Yes, right, Ethan continued, stepping into the light. We can't keep pretending that everything is fine. You need to face this, Alice. We all do. The air thickened with tension, and Jack felt his grip on the moment slipping away. He couldn't let this turn against him. What do you want, Alice? he asked, his tone urgent yet gentle. You asked if I could change. What if we all changed together? Alice hesitated, looking back and forth between Jack and Ethan. The shadows of her past loomed heavy over her, and Jack could see the struggle etched into her face. There was so much at stake, and he could feel the wave of uncertainty creeping back in. What would she choose? Could their family reclaim what had been lost? As the room fell silent, the unabashed vulnerability hung in the air, amplifying every unsaid word. Jack held his breath, praying, waiting for her answer, hopeful that he wouldn't end up standing in the dark after all. Would she take that step into the light with him? Or would the shadows of their past pull her away once more? Jack's heart raced as he watched Alice struggle with her thoughts, her gaze darting back and forth between him and Ethan. The whispering crowd pressed closer, the stillness wrapping around them like a cloak, thick with anticipation. Everyone had been caught in their own whirlwind, but in this moment the world had shrunk to just the three of them. Jack felt the weight of Alice's silence pressing down on him. He could almost taste the tension. Every second felt like an eternity as he clung to the hope that she might remember the love they once had. Ethan shifted nervously, his eyes filled with concern for Alice. You can't keep running, Alice. We've all felt your pain. You're not alone anymore. His voice was steady, but Jack could sense the underlying eagerness for her acceptance. Alice opened her mouth as if to respond, yet all that came out was a whispered, "What if?" She faltered, her voice trailing off into the cavernous silence, lost in uncertainty. Jack took a deep breath, fighting to keep his own hopes in check. What if what? He pressed gently, leaning closer. What if you let us in? What if you let us help you? Her brow creased with worry. The walls she had built around herself were crumbling in the face of so much raw emotion. What if it doesn't work? What if I get hurt again? The fear radiated from her like heat from fire. Jack understood. He had been there too, paralyzed by the what-ifs. And what if it does work? Jack countered, feeling that flicker of determination ignite within him. What if we find something even stronger together? Trust, healing, a future? Around them, the murmur of the crowd erupted like a charged storm, approving Jack's fervent plea. Faces lit with encouragement, shouts of support rising like a wave. Jack saw the flicker of life behind Alice's eyes. It's worth the risk, Ethan chimed in, lifting his voice above the rush. You're more powerful than you realize, Alice. You've come so far. Jack watched as Alice stood at the precipice of decision, the gravitational pull of her memories fighting against the hope being offered to her. The tears welling in her eyes hinted at a fierce battle within her heart. Would she allow the light to pierce the shadows that threatened to pull her back? She took a shaky step backward, biting her lip, grappling with doubt, and Jack felt his own chest tighten. This was the moment, the one that could define everything. Alice, we're all standing right here, he pleaded. You're not alone. I'm not asking you to forget your pain. I just want to help you share it together. A bead of moisture slipped from her eye, rolling down her cheek. It seemed to spark something in her, and Jack held his breath. She was teetering on the edge, ready to leap or retreat. I don't know, Jack, she whispered, hesitating as a low murmur spread through the crowd. They could feel the tension building, hearts collectively holding their breath, waiting for her next move. And in that pregnant pause, everything hung in the balance. Suddenly, Alice's phone buzzed violently in her pocket, shattering the silence. She jumped, fumbling to silence it with trembling hands. The unexpected vibration seemed to jolt her, bringing her back to the present moment, the tough choice laid bare. Who? Even her voice trailed off as she glanced at the screen, recognizing the incoming caller. Jack could see the color drain from her face, the shadows deepening in her eyes again. Alice, who is it? Jack felt the danger of that intrusion on their fragile moment, eyes glued to her phone vibrating with urgency. She lifted her gaze, suddenly distant again as the weight of her past loomed larger. It's my dad, she said, voice shaking. What would it mean to take that call now when everything was poised for change? Jack's plea faded as he realized the enormity of the situation, the compounding elements pulling her apart. Would she choose the heavy cloak of her heritage, or take a chance on newly kindled hope? As the buzzing intensified, pointing fingers of fate crossed each other with a sharp metallic clink, forcing each of them to confront the truth. What legacy would she choose to carry, and what price would they all pay to find out? Alice's hand trembled as she stared at her phone, the light pulsing like a small heart beating in her palm. The name on the screen felt like a ghost revisiting a painful chapter, the specter of her past. I should answer it, she murmured, the words barely escaping her lips. No, Jack urged, desperation threading through his voice. Not now. Not when you're so close to making a choice that could change everything. He saw the conflict etched on her face and pressed on, hoping to guide her past her hesitation. Your dad, he is a part of your past. We're here for your future. Alice's breath hitched as she flicked her gaze between the glowing phone and Jack's imploring eyes. But what if he needs me? Every syllable dripped with the weight of responsibility. What if I can't turn my back on him? Ethan stepped up, his tone soft yet firm. You have to do what's right for you, Alice. If you answer that call, will it be for him or for you? The crowd shifted, murmurs whispering around them, a collective holding of breaths, caught in the tension of her decision. Jack could feel the energy rise, electric with anticipation. You're not obligated to fix everything for him, Alice. This is your moment. So much has happened and you deserve closure on your own terms. Tears spilled from her eyes, blurring Jack's view. I don't even know who I am anymore. Feels like my past is always pulling me in. Confusion flickered across her features like shadows in a dim room, and Jack's heart tightened. She had come so far, but she was still tangled in the web of her own fears. Alice, Jack breathed, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a lifeline. The only answer that matters is how you define yourself moving forward. You're not your dad's mistakes. You're stronger than those shadows trying to swallow you whole. The seconds ticked by slowly, the drumming of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Alice felt rooted to the spot as waves of doubt crashed over her. What did she truly want? The phone buzzed again, more insistent now. I could just tell him I'll call him back later, she finally said. But there was a tremor in her voice, a hint of resistance lingering in her mind. Alice, please, Ethan pressed, reaching out to touch her shoulder gently. If you don't take this moment for yourself, it could slip away. We're here for you. Let that fear go. Alice bit her lip hard enough to taste the metallic tang of blood. Both men watched her, two pillars of strength before her, realizing the monumental weight of what hung in the air. In a sudden burst of clarity, she tapped the screen and pressed it to her ear. Dad? Her voice, though shaky, held a firmness that surprised even her. I can't talk right now. The crowd collectively sighed, holding their breath in the wake of her defiance. Jack's heart soared a little, but Alice's brows knitted in desperation as she continued listening to whatever was being said on the other end. I need some space. Her voice held a tremor of authority now, and Jack could see the fight building inside her, the flickers of empowerment lighting up her features. For the first time, the weight she had been carrying seemed to wane. But then suddenly, silence fell as she let the phone drop from her ear. She turned back to Jack and Ethan, raw determination shining through her eyes. I need to find my truth. No more running. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a swell of support breaking through her doubts. Jack felt the warmth radiate from her decision, but even amidst the cheers, he sensed an undercurrent of worry still tugging at her heart, uncertainty masked by newfound strength. But before he could say a word, Alice looked at him. And what if it turns out that my truth hurts even more? This question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Jack held her gaze, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. Then we'll face it together, he promised, voice thick with conviction. You won't be alone again. Yet within Alice's expression, Jack saw the flicker of something else, a deeper fear that threatened everything they had just fought for. She was turning to a new chapter, but the page remained unwritten, and what lay ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. Could they handle the truth when it emerged, raw and ugly? As the energy around them bubbled and surged, the air shifted. Alice stayed quiet, torn between her past and whatever future awaited her. With tension rising, Jack knew this was just the beginning. Something was brewing, and as the crowd erupted in applause, he couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest battles were yet to come. What else lay buried deep in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? The applause faded, leaving an echo of uncertainty hanging in the air. Jack watched Alice as she stood there, breathing heavily, her shoulders trembling with the weight of her choice. The crowd had celebrated her defiance, but he saw the shadows linger in her eyes, a mix of hope and dread. Let us step away for a minute, he suggested, his voice steady as he took her arm gently. She nodded, vulnerability flashing across her features as they moved to the edge of the gathering. The noise dimmed behind them, a distant murmur now engulfed by the soft rustle of leaves, and a gentle breeze that felt almost calming. Once they were out of earshot, Jack turned to her. "You did something amazing, Alice. You stood up for what you need." But Alice's shoulders slumped, and he could feel her heartbeat quicken. "What if I lose myself in this search for truth? What if it brings back everything I've tried to forget?" Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Facing the truth is hard, but it's also freeing. You deserve to find out what that truth means for you." Her eyes met his, searching for reassurance. "But what if it's too painful? What if it breaks me?" He could see the wars raging inside her, fighting against the strength she had just summoned. "Then we'll rebuild together. We'll face what comes. You're not alone in this." They stood in silence for a moment, and Jack reached out, brushing a stray tear from her cheek with his thumb. Alice drew a shaky breath, and he wished he could take away her fears, replace them with warmth and safety. But he knew this battle was hers alone to fight. Just then Ethan appeared, his face a mixture of concern and support. "Hey you two. Just checking in. Are you okay?" Alice nodded, though her expression betrayed the storm brewing within her. "I'm trying to be," she admitted, her voice soft. "What's next?" Ethan prompted gently. "You can start to shape your path now that you've carved out some space for yourself." Alice turned her gaze back to the crowd, still buzzing with excitement. "I think I need to talk to him again. I need to hear what he has to say, but this time on my terms." "That's a brave choice," Ethan replied, visibly impressed. "But you don't owe anyone anything. This is about you." Jack watched as a small spark ignited in Alice's eyes. Perhaps it was the realization that she had the power to choose, instead of being swept away in fear. "I know," she said more firmly now. "It's time to see if he has really changed. I need to know if he can be in my life in a different way. Just be mindful, okay?" Jack reminded her, feeling his heart race again. "This is a big step." Alice took a deep breath, finding her stance. "I will. I won't let him draw me back into the darkness." With an unexpected smile, she straightened her posture, the tension in her stance slowly easing. "I'm ready for my truth, and I won't let myself be defined by fear." As they rejoined the crowd, Jack felt a wave of pride wash over him. Alice was claiming her power, and he would stand by her no matter how turbulent the journey ahead might be. Yet even amidst the encouraging shouts, an unease crept in. There was still so much more they had to uncover. Just then, in the midst of the celebration, Alice's hand instinctively tightened around Jack's. What if I find out he was never the one holding me back? What if it was all me?" The question sliced through the moment, rich with potential for deeper insight, and Jack met her gaze, his heart pounding. "Then we'll wrestle with those demons too. You're allowed to unravel. You deserve that." As they turned back to face the crowd, Alice took a deep breath, fresh resolve coloring her features. But Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of uncovering layers of truth, and the shadows lurking just beyond sight still had secrets to share. What would be revealed when she faced her past head-on? Alice felt a mix of warmth and anxiety as she stood back in the midst of the crowd, surrounded by familiar faces. The energy was electric, but the weight of her decision pressed heavily on her chest. She squeezed Jack's hand, taking comfort in his quiet strength. Ethan stepped back to give them space but shot her an encouraging smile. "You've got this, Alice. Just remember you're in control." The sea of people, still buzzing with excitement, began to fade into a blur. Her heart raced as she approached the person she'd been trying to avoid, a face she had once known so intimately, yet had become a stranger over time. As she drew closer, her breath caught in her throat. He seemed different, though she couldn't quite place why. Was it his posture? The way he looked at her? A semblance of vulnerability she hadn't seen before? "Can we talk?" she managed to say, her voice steady but shaky. He nodded, his expression unreadable. They stepped away from the crowd, the noise dimming further with every step. Guilt pooled in her stomach, mixing with her mounting courage. The weight of their shared history felt heavier than ever. "Look, Alice," he began, running a hand through his hair, clearly flustered. She held up her hand, interrupting him. "Let me talk first, please." He fell silent, and for a moment, All she could hear was the thudding of her heart. I've spent so long hiding from myself, from my feelings. You were a part of that. But what I need now is to know if we can even have a real conversation. If there's a way forward for us, or if this is just a dead end. There was a moment of hesitation as she struggled to keep his gaze. She could feel the crowd's energy seep in through the thin veil of their private space, each laugh and cheer echoing hollowly around them. I never wanted to hurt you, Alice, he said softly, guilt etched across his face. I've changed. I want to show you that. Changed how? The words slipped from her lips without thinking. She was brave, but her defenses were still built high. Every time I reach out, you vanish into yourself. I hope for answers and I get nothing. He took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers. You're right. I've dealt with my own demons, and in the process I pushed you away. I thought it would protect you. I didn't realize it was destroying us. Her heart ached at the admission, and still she was cautious. But can this change? Can you really be there for me now? As his eyes softened, she sensed a flicker of truth in his answer. I want to believe that I can. I want to be who you need me to be. Tension hung thick between them, and Alice felt the weight of the moment. Had she come here to seek forgiveness or to find closure? Maybe it was both. However, self-doubt crept in like a thief, trying to steal away the moment's clarity. But what do you need? He asked gently, probing into the heart of her uncertainty. I need to know that I'm not broken beyond repair, that I can move forward. Whether with you or without you, she confessed, her voice breaking slightly. Tears shimmered in her eyes. The fear of longing was real. Before he could respond, Jack stepped closer, concern plastered on his face. Alice? She turned, spread her hands toward him. It wasn't about running away any longer. The confusion within her sparked. I'm okay, Jack. This is my moment. Jack nodded, but a shadow flickered behind his eyes. What do I do if this doesn't go as planned? Alice asked herself, feeling a torrent of emotion swell inside her. As she looked back at the man before her, she knew this was more than just an encounter. It was a chance to uncover truths hidden beneath the layers of hurt and mistrust. The tension and uncertainty buzzed like static in the air. Would she find the answers she sought, or would this merely lead to deeper questions about her own courage? Suddenly, from the edge of the crowd, a shout rang out, drawing everyone's attention. A sudden rush of chaos consumed the moment, and Alice felt her grip on certainty slip away. What is happening? Jack asked, concern jumping to the surface. Alice turned, heart racing again. Maybe the truth is just around the corner, or maybe it will be lost in this chaos. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was about to unfold could change everything yet again. And at that moment, as fear and possibility intertwined, Alice knew her journey was far from over. What lay ahead could either tear her apart or stitch her back together. The sudden commotion at the edge of the crowd surged forward like a wave, drawing eyes and pulling in whispers. Jack glanced at Alice, his intuition prickling with unease. Stay close, he murmured as they turned toward the clamor. From the throng, a figure emerged, stumbling but intent, a young girl flanked by two adults, visibly shaken. The girl held a crumpled paper in one hand and looked around as if searching for something. Instinctively, Jack stepped protectively in front of Alice, ready to shield her from potential chaos. What happened? He pressed, trying to gain clarity through the whirlwind of voices around them. Can anyone help? We lost a dog. Benji's gone. The urgency in her tone cut through the confusion like a knife. Anxiety rippled through the crowd, a shared ripple of concern and empathy ignited. Jack glanced at Alice, her eyes widening in recognition of the mounting distress. We have to help, she breathed, even as the heaviness of their earlier conversation lingered like a shadow. Let us organize, Jack shouted, stepping forward to address the crowd. Everyone, if you want to join in helping find Benji, form small teams. We can cover more ground that way. Within moments, the group erupted into a flurry of energy. Hands began to wave and people called out as they divided into clusters, purposeful chatter buzzing with resolve. The previous tension melted away, replaced with a concentrated sense of community. Alice's eyes sparkled as she turned to Jack. This is what matters. This is real connection. His heart swelled. Exactly. We're not alone in this. The chaos of the moment seemed to align with the hope blossoming around them. Let's south check the park. A voice shouted. The crowd began to peel away, following the cry, and Jack felt a warmth enveloping him, something that had been missing for so long. It felt like a new beginning, a chance to connect, not just with Alice, but with the community they both wanted to reclaim. Suddenly, Alice grabbed his wrist. "I need to speak with him." She turned back toward the figure of her father, who had come into the fold seemingly unnoticed, but now stood at the periphery, watching the unfolding chaos with apprehension. Jack's pulse quickened. "Are you sure?" "Yes." She took a deep breath, steadied her stance, and moved toward the gathering. "I need to find out if he is truly ready to change." With each step, Jack felt the electric charge of uncertainty. He wanted to follow, but instinct told him to let her face this moment alone, just as she had done earlier. This was her truth to seek, and he urged himself to trust her journey. The crowd buzzed with excitement as calls for Benji echoed in the air. And amidst the rescue effort, Jack paused, watching Alice approach her father. He could see the tense lines drawn on her face, the deep breaths fueling her courage. "Dad!" Alice's voice rang out clearly, cutting through the excitement. He turned. For a moment, they were suspended in time, the world around them fading into a soft backdrop as their eyes locked. Memories and emotions danced between them like butterflies caught in the wind. "I need to know," Alice continued, voice steady now. "Are you willing to show up, really show up for me this time?" Jack watched the struggle within her father, the expressions flickering across his features: remorse, longing, and desperation. This was raw, real, and confronting. "Alice," he began, but she raised her hand again. "Stop. Just tell me, can we start fresh?" There was something new in her, a strength she hadn't possessed before. A vow to herself she was declaring freely into the universe. The response took time, the air thick with tension and expectation. Finally, her father nodded slowly, tears glistening in his eyes. "I want to try. I want us to have a chance." Alice took a shaky breath, and Jack felt the hope radiate from the small moment. This was no insignificant thing. They were grounding themselves in the possibility of healing. Just then, the sound of cheerful barks caught Jack's attention. A little brown dog sprinted into sight, tail wagging furiously. The girl's lost Benji. The sun burst through the clouds above, illuminating the surroundings just as the crowd erupted into applause and jubilance, a wave of relief washing over them. Alice turned, joy lighting her face. In that instant, Jack realized how far she'd come, a wild journey filled with twists and turns but leading toward healing and connection. She rushed back to him, laughter bubbling up as Benji jumped around them, soaking in the love from all sides. "Did you see that? We did this together," she exclaimed, her eyes shining bright. "I knew you could," Jack grinned, hugging her close, the warmth of their bond rekindled. As the crowd celebrated, Alice looked up at Jack and whispered, "I have a long way to go, but I'm ready to face it." "You're strong," he replied, pride swelling in his chest. "We'll face it together." This was only the beginning. Together they had found a glimpse of possibility, a moment that carried within it seeds of hope for the future. They returned to the heart of the crowd, where laughter echoed and kindness blossomed. Suddenly, amidst the joy, Alice turned to her father, now sweeping into their warm exchange. The threads of connection were slowly budding, weaving together. As Benji dashed between them with boundless energy, Jack couldn't help but smile. The air tasted vibrant with potential, a moment of unity that sparked promise for everyone involved. And it was then he knew it: what had begun with uncertainty and fear had transformed into something greater, a tapestry of love, healing, and possibilities waiting to be realized. In this little corner of the world, hearts were opening like flowers in bloom, resilient and hopeful, a testament to how far they could all go when they stood together. Jack glanced at Alice, who was now animatedly sharing stories with her father. There was laughter among them, the warmth spreading as they steered their lives toward the shared light ahead. This was the moment he had hoped for, and in that instant, Jack realized that healing, love, and reconnection were the roots of this community, all forged together by compassion. The future stretched out before them, each day a chance to build upon the foundation they were laying brick by brick. And with that feeling nestled deep in his heart, Jack smiled, feeling the energy of the community around him, ready to bloom into something extraordinary. Now more than ever, it was a time for action, love, and unity. And together they would navigate the road ahead, illuminating every step they took together with hope. So at this pivotal moment, I urge you to join the community that embraces transformation. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss our next incredible stories. Hit that like button now to help our community grow and spread this message of hope. And remember to comment what you felt about the ending. Share those emotions with us. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together we can make a difference.